A pleasant morning to all. It's a joy to be here again in another session. And I want to take this time to welcome all of you. My name is Pauline Ramming, and I'm going to be moderating this session for you this morning. And this session, I want to welcome you to it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be very insightful, impactful, and meaningful for you. So I want you to sit and listen and interact with us as we present the social sciences, making the connection. I trust that all of you are ready for what we have in store for you today. But before I present our facilitators for this session, I want to take the time to encourage you to put all of your questions in the question and answer box at the bottom of your screen. And then be assured that almost at the end of the presentation, we will put the evaluation form in the chat so you'll be able to evaluate this session. This morning, our facilitators for this session is none other than our Ministry of Education personnel in the lower primary division this year. Yeah. Miss Martin, sorry, I was getting the first name mixed up. Miss Martin and Miss Conliffe. They're going to present to us today. So I want you to really pay attention, take notes if you have to, and enjoy the session. Thank you so much. And we're going to turn it over now to Miss Martin as she presents.
Good day, colleagues, and welcome to the session, Making the Connections with the Social Sciences. As you already know, my name is Yindira Martin, and it is my pleasure to present to you today. Today's objective is simple. It is to demonstrate the proper planning and implementation of the interdisciplinary units. Yes, I know the interdisciplinary units, just the term, or just when you hear IDU, you get flustered and frustrated. But stick with me. I know you have many questions. Start posting your questions now in the Q&A discussion, or let's have a discussion in the chat. This is not a monologue. I don't want you to think that you don't have a voice. Let's talk about it in the chat. We're going to have an active chat. Let's go. Start with your questions. But our focus today is to ensure that at the end of this session, you're able to properly plan and implement the interdisciplinary units in your classrooms, be it face-to-face or virtual. We're going to go through the document today and dispel some of those myths and provide some clarity for you. Before I go into all the nuts and bolts of the interdisciplinary unit, I want you to hear from some of your colleagues that would have had the same apprehension that you did. No, not all of you. I know some of you, you're okay, and this might be a refresher, but I just want you to hear from colleagues like yourself.
Studies have shown that one of the best ways to prepare our students for the world is through interdisciplinary learning. This is when the students are taught to apply information from across the subjects to solve complex problems. Preparing our students for tomorrow requires breaking down the walls that have been built between disciplines. Prior to the introduction of the interdisciplinary method of teaching, I taught the subjects in isolation, and this at times was very frustrating. However, when the interdisciplinary method of teaching included in the Bahamas Primary School's curriculum was introduced, some changes had to be made, and I found that to be very helpful. For example, prior to the introduction of the interdisciplinary method of teaching, when I began the day with devotions with my students, I would have them pray, sing a song, and I would just read any Bible story which did not connect with the other lessons that I would be teaching for that day. However, when the interdisciplinary method of teaching was introduced, I had to teach the students across the various disciplines and bring them together on one common theme. This was much better and motivated me to prepare interesting and exciting devotional times and lessons. When presenting the devotion using the interdisciplinary method, I would begin with a topic. Then a theme was used for that particular day or week that all of the other subjects were connected to. A Bible story from the curriculum for that grade level was then chosen, which connected to the topic and the theme. A scripture was used that correlated to the Bible story. When doing the interdisciplinary method of teaching, much preparations would have to take place prior to the lessons. Then, when the devotional session had ended, the other lessons would connect to the devotions using the same theme for that day for teaching other subjects. I concluded that interdisciplinary teaching involved exploring content by integrating more than one academic subject.
Hey there! Today, we're talking to Miss Alexis Mortimer, and she's going to tell us her experience with making IDU videos. Initially, I found IDU very confusing, but through research and planning using the curriculum, along with the help of the lower primary unit, I was able to overcome that. Now, I really enjoy teaching IDU. So teachers, we are all treading in unfamiliar waters, but I encourage you, turn your fears into fun. It's much easier than it seems. You just have to make the first step. You got this.
Okay, colleagues. I hope by watching those short testimonials, you would have felt a little bit more encouraged that it can actually work, it can actually happen, and it can make sense. Now, let's start with the documents. The interdisciplinary unit documents were introduced to our schools in 2012 after they were created. We made some adjustments and then they were widely dispersed in 2013. These units came about after the restructuring of the lower primary timetable. That restructuring resulted in you having more contact hours in the areas of literacy and numeracy, namely, we would have had, prior to the restructuring, about 5 to 7 periods of math. Now you have 10 periods per week. You would have had probably 5 or 7 periods for reading or phonics, comprehension, and all of these things all over the place. Now it's 10 periods for reading, and it's all encompassing, as you would have heard in your sessions earlier. Now, in restructuring the timetable to provide more contact hours in the literacy and numeracy areas, we combined or integrated the social sciences by way of themes. Now that's all the interdisciplinary units are. It's the integration of disciplines by way of units or themes. That's all, and that's not a grand theoretical definition, but that's the definition of it in its simplest form. They are only thematic units. Following this introduction, we would have had a wide range, of conversations with teachers, administrators, officers in the Department of Education. And it was over a period of time we made adjustments. But what you would be working with now is the most recently revised document, that was produced in 2017. This document is not a curriculum document. It is not a replacement of those subject-specific curriculum documents. The structure of it is designed to integrate those 4 subject areas: science, religious studies, social studies, health and family life, using themes. The content that is within those documents, it's based on those subject-specific curriculum guides. And later in the session, you'll see how they are actually reflected or represented in the document. Now, this is a page from first grade interdisciplinary unit, first theme, self-identity. For those of you that are new to grade 1, this is the document or the version of the document that you should be using. If your version of the document is not color-coded with a key, as you see here, then that's the old one. You need that. So go online and they have the newer version, the 2017 version, posted on the ministry's page. Let's go through it bit by bit. The first thing, how to use the interdisciplinary unit. I know, just the term IDU has caused many of you great consternation, but I think it would have been by way of some myths, some misconceptions. There are 5 units within each grade level's interdisciplinary unit document. The units or themes, there are 5, and they are the same from 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. All 3 grade levels have the very same themes. The first theme is self-identity. The second theme is needs. The third theme, changes. The fourth, values. And the fifth is socialization. I'll say it again. First theme, self-identity. Second theme, needs. Third theme, changes. Fourth theme, values. And the fifth theme is socialization. Now, each theme, for example, right here, self-identity, is taught for a minimum of 4 weeks to a maximum of 6, sometimes 7 weeks. And it depends on the amount of content and information and the amount of topics that we're covering within that theme. Now, the broad theme is there to guide us. That is what we're going to be focusing on within this time frame. We're going to be looking at self-identity, what makes us who we are. Our first topic now would be all about me. And again, all 3 grade levels have the very same first topic, all about me. We tried to do that as we went through the topics, but it didn't work. But this one is the same for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, all about me. That is something we all need to know. Now, this topic can be taught for 1 or 2 weeks. In some instances, depending on the amount of content that will be covered, it may be taught for about 2.5 weeks. Now, why is it taking so long? Remember, the interdisciplinary units are allotted 3 periods on the restructured timetable, only 3 periods. And if you have them as 3 single periods, that means I think it's 40 or 45 minutes on during the face-to-face timetable. And now we would have to restructure in the virtual platform how much time that we would actually have for teaching that. So it's only 3 periods per week. So if we only have 3 periods per week, we can't cover the entire topic in 1 week because that's a whole lot of content. Therefore, we stretch it out. The first lesson, we may cover so much. The second, the third, and then we continue in the next week. And that's okay. Therefore, it results in our unit or our theme being taught for a minimum of 4 weeks to a maximum of about 7, let's say 6.5 weeks, depending on the amount of content. And it's okay. That is how you should be teaching it, not one topic for 1 week. No, that's not the expectation. Now, our essential question. The essential question guides our instruction as teachers. We want to know, who am I? Who am I physically? Who am I spiritually? What are my beliefs? What is that based on? Who am I in terms of my culture? Then, who am I as an individual? So all of the content that you would have shared with your students would lead them to answer, who am I? And they would know all about me, which leads them to finding out or developing a degree of self-identity. Okay, so everything has a purpose. It's not just placed there just to frustrate you. All right, so I hope, if nothing else, that part is cleared up. That myth is cleared up that you have to do one topic every week or a theme within a matter of 3 weeks. No, it is a progression. Okay, colleagues, now let's go through the document column by column, so that we leave this session with no frustration and that we all have all things in common and we all have a clear understanding. Now, the first column in the interdisciplinary unit document is labeled learning outcomes. Learning outcomes is just that. This is telling you what your students should learn or they should know at the end of this particular topic, all about me. These are subject specific. You're not planning your lesson using this particular column. And let me say this. After our conversations with teachers, and again, we would have sent out surveys. Yes, by the way, some of you have those surveys for me sitting on the desk or in the Z file. Yeah, I know. You can send them. Your voice still, we still want to hear what you have to say. Your opinion still matters. So please just send them on. You can email them. Now, this column, we know that it has been, like I said, a point of confusion or frustration. In our revision, we're going to remove this column, but for right now, this is the document that we're working with, and we're still getting feedback from you. So I'm just trying to provide some clarity. No, you're not planning your lessons using this column. This is telling you the attitudes that we want our students to have or to develop at the end of this topic. We want them to be able to express the correct terminology for body parts and organs as well as functions. We want them to be able to demonstrate an awareness of the various external body parts and their functions. Those are attitudes. They're written in the affective domain, not the cognitive domain. When we look at the objectives column now, this is the column that you're going to use to plan your lessons. These objectives are numbered. They are in a progression, meaning no, the 4 subjects are not going to be represented in every lesson. That's another myth that has been widely shared amongst colleagues. No, each lesson is a progression in this particular topic. When we look at the first objective, for the most part, the objectives are integrated. We tried our best to write them in an integrated format so that when you read them, you can see social studies and science or religious studies and health and family, however it's integrated. So let's look at the first one here. Identify that God made me and is the creator of all things. Off the bat, we know that's an indication that we're going to focus on, yes, religious studies. Then it says, describe in their own words the beauty of God's creation. Those 2 objectives, you can use those as your first lesson. That's your introductory lesson to this topic, all about me. You only have 40 minutes or 45 minutes in one period. Why are you going to add more to that? That's your first lesson. The second lesson now, we can focus on objective 3. The third lesson, we can focus now on objectives 4 and 5. Then, remember, only 3 periods, so that's 3 lessons. The next week, we're going to focus on, you got it, objective 6. That is the progression. Yes, some of your lessons may seem to be biased to one subject. However, you're not calling it science. You're not calling it religious studies. We're talking about all about me, self-identity. Let's talk about the creation. That's your first lesson. After you would have done that lesson, you're now going to come in your second lesson. We learned that God is the creator of all things, and our bodies are special, and he created man on the 6th day. And let's see how we are alike and different from the people around us. You're making the connections. You're not forcing it. It's fluid. The same way you show the relationship with real world examples, this now is the way that we're going to connect the content that we would have shared with our students. And we're not holding science over here in this period and religious studies over here in that period. No, we're showing the relationship within each of our lessons. Questions, concerns, talk to me. Let us have this conversation together. I know you would have heard a lot of things. I know you may still have questions. Now, those are the objectives and how we should plan them. Notice in some lessons, we can use 2 objectives. Some lessons, we only have 1 objective, and it depends on the content that is going to be shared. For example, in objective 3, we're going to be looking at the family life and health as well as the social studies, just by way of reading this particular objective. You're already integrating. You only need that 1 objective. And then the other lesson, you may have 2 objectives. You may have 3 objectives. So it's not saying that all of your lessons will look the very same. I hope that's clear. Now, okay. These are the next columns in the document. The activities. The activities are, again, reflective of an attempt to integrate the social subjects. Also, these suggested activities are also numbered. So you see them in progression as well, and they kind of go along with the objectives that are there. So if for example, you would have taught your first lesson focusing on God is the creator of all things. Let's look at SI8. View creation story, picture of plants and animals God created. State likes and differences. That's an activity within itself. And then you have the little diagram here. These are things that you can use in your face-to-face classroom as well as your virtual classroom. They're just going to look a bit different in terms of how the students submitted to you or how you presented to your students. You may ask them to send you a video or a WhatsApp video. Just create a little video and send it to you, or create a little picture using the drawing app or little whiteboard. Draw something that God made on day 1. You see, it's up to you to be creative now. And again, we're not, I don't know if I said it before, but let me say it here. We are not promoting a workbook. We don't encourage, or we haven't created a workbook, because the interdisciplinary units are to be assessed in using more performance-based activities and assessments, showing for the students to show us, tell us, demonstrate what they know, how they can make those connections. They're tested a whole lot. So let's give them more opportunities to talk. And we wonder why they can't have a conversation. We don't give them enough opportunities to talk. They can explain these connections better than we think. Now to one of the most important columns in this document, content. The content is based on the subject-specific curriculum documents. Nothing that we would have presented in the learner outcomes or objective columns came out of thin air. It is based on the curriculum documents. Therefore, it dispels another myth that you don't need those curriculum documents anymore. No, we don't have the exact verbiage. No, we don't have exactly how it should be taught, or the exact, when we look at religious studies here, we don't have everything, every story that should be shared. However, we made reference to it page by page. We show you here the theme that is covered in the religious studies curriculum document, and we also do that for all of the other documents. One of the main reasons is the units are basically thematic units yet again, and in order for us to get the content, we needed those curriculum documents. When we go to those curriculum documents now and you see the paragraph or the content that is there, it then gives you suggested activities, an additional set of activities, additional resources. So we're not eliminating the use of those documents, we're just helping you tie it all together. The units are, again, basically thematic units. Yes, you're still going to need the science, but you're going to be able to connect it with your social studies and health and family life, which you may not have normally done if you were teaching them in isolation. I hope that's a bit clearer. Now the skills. The skills, you're not going to plan for these in your lesson and you have to indicate that. No, these are just indications as to how we should encourage the students to engage and interact, and us as teachers providing opportunities for them to communicate, for them to actually reflect on who they are, what they believe, investigate, and observe. So this is just a guide as to the skills that should be developed throughout this topic and all the other topics. Last 2 columns, assessment. The assessment column is there to guide you as to some of the types of assessments that you can actually administer. You can use a checklist. in this virtual environment, we can have a conversation with our first graders. Okay, Johnny, how old are you? What is your name? Because Johnny may be the nickname. Some of them may not know their real names. And that can be a checklist. Does the child know their name? Does the child know their age? Does the child know their gender, nationality? You can have a checklist. And if in conversation the child is able to answer all of that, they know it. Checklist, done. That's a grade within itself. Performance-based assessment, you didn't need a test, you didn't need a worksheet, you didn't need pencil, and you didn't have to take home papers to mark. So that is the type of assessment we're encouraging you to use with your students. The resources are clear, all of the curriculum documents. Social studies, the curriculum document is not available as yet, but we're using the social studies books and the teachers' manuals that go along with those social studies books. Now, I hope the document itself is clear. Yes, I know I'm doing a whole lot of talking. However, we thought it was necessary to go through the document because there have been many queries and concerns and misconceptions, and we thought now would have been an excellent time to kind of clear the air so that everybody goes off on a good footing. 2020 has been a challenge already. We need not have more challenges with the interdisciplinary unit. If we can get one thing straight, let's do that. Now, these are pages from the actual curriculum documents. All of the curriculum documents and the interdisciplinary units are available on the Ministry of Education's website. And again, as I said to you, from the various curriculum documents, it tells you exactly what information you should be sharing. Be careful not to give too much information, because especially if we're getting it from sources outside of our subject-specific documents created by the Department of Education. Some of them may go too far, which would be a repeat when they get to grade 2. If you go too far in grade 2, it would be a repeat. So it's too much. Sometimes less is more. Make it count. Now, this is the religious studies, and it also indicates the story that should be used for this particular content. The page from the Children's Bible, which everyone should have. And the Children's Bible stories are available on YouTube. Just type it in, Children's Bible Stories, and it's available on YouTube. So if you're considering or if you're wondering how it's going to work in the virtual environment, YouTube is an awesome resource, and it has all of those stories there already. Health and Family Life. Yes, there is a Health and Family Life curriculum document. Please use it. It is very, very helpful, and it's full of content. And I'll tell you this. As one of our teachers were preparing a lesson, she was looking for the internal organs in the science curriculum. Actually, turns out that's not in science. That's in Health and Family Life. Again, we have to read the documents that are there. Almost done, almost done. Let's map out a lesson, or let's see how we can map out a lesson. First, we look for the theme, or we look at the theme. This is the way that the lesson that you will see in the next slide. This is how we mapped it out. We looked at the theme. We were using the theme of values, and that lesson was posted on the virtual platform. Then we looked at the topic for that week, which was sharing values. Then we went through the objectives, and because it was the first lesson within this particular topic, we used the first 3 objectives. Define the term natural resources and the rest of the objectives there. Again, they're numbered, so you know exactly what we're doing. Then we looked at the content. Now, the content specific to this was off the top, the science curriculum or the science content. Now, we can tie this in with the social studies content, which isn't represented here, but we can also tie this in talking about the home. How can we show value for these natural resources in our home? Okay? So the lesson before, the week before, we would have looked at things that we value in our environment. We would have talked about landforms and the people in our community and all of that. So we're going to tie that in this particular week. We look at our activities, the suggested activities. They're going to create a diagram and they're going to classify natural and man-made resources. Now, that is something we can do in the face-to-face environment as well as the virtual environment. We can create a T chart, simply big T with the space on both sides. Man-made, natural resource. Have some pictures. They can do this in the live worksheet in that they can drag and drop. Also, we can have this created in a Microsoft Forms document, whereas we can give them pictures, different pictures, and you can ask, is it man-made or is it a natural resource? Let them click it. Or you can give them pictures and let them choose which ones are natural resources or which ones are man-made from the group of pictures. And that's your assessment, that's your activity. They had fun, they didn't have to write anything, and some of them are going to have challenges reading, and it's something that they can do independently without you hoovering, guiding them through it. So let's look at the lessons. As the lesson is coming up, I want to remind everyone, put your comments, your questions, and also these lessons are all available on
as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread.
All of these lessons are available on the Ministry of Education's virtual school YouTube page. So you can go there and you can pull from a slew of lessons that are already prepared for you. Let's go back to the beginning.
Good morning, boys and girls. My name is Mrs. Jeanette Hall. I will be leading you with our devotions this morning. Please put your hands together and close your eyes. Pray along with me. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Our theme for this morning is caring for the environment. Our scripture lesson is taken from Psalms chapter 24 and verse 1. And it reads, the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. Boys and girls, can any of you remember what the word caring means? Yes, to have a feeling of concern or interest in someone or something is described as caring. Boys and girls, what is an environment? Yes, an environment is everything around us. What are some things that are part of our environment? Yes, the air, the soil, yes, the water, plants. Yes, you are right, the animals. What are all of these things called? Do you remember, boys and girls? Yes, they are called natural resources. Why do we have to take care of our environment? We need to take care of our environment because plants and animals need to be clean and healthy. Boys and girls, what are some ways that we can care for the environment? Yes, do not litter. Put all garbage in the garbage bin. Yes, we can recycle things like plastic. Do you know what it means to recycle? To recycle means to take something you were going to throw in the trash, such as a piece of paper, and turn it into something new and useful like a new book. You can find a new way to use something. Boys and girls, have you ever heard of the word reuse? You can reuse materials in their original form instead of throwing them away, or pass those materials on to others who could use them too. Have you ever heard one man's trash is another man's treasure? Boys and girls, another way that we can care for our environment is by reducing. Have you heard your parents talk about the word reducing? To reduce means to make something smaller or use less, resulting in a smaller amount of waste. When we keep our environment clean, then we are showing God that we are grateful and thankful for this big world that He has given us. When you take care of your environment, then God will bless you with all of the natural resources to keep you healthy. Listen to this story in the Bible where Jesus' disciples were blessed with some natural resources that could keep them healthy. The name of this story is A Net Full of Fish. Peter went fishing with some of the disciples. They fished from their boat all night, but they did not even catch one fish. Early the next morning, someone from the shore shouted, "You have not caught any fish, have you?" "No," they replied. "Cast your net to the right side of the boat," the man said. As soon as they did, their net was full of fish. Then Jesus knew the man was Jesus. He jumped out of the boat and swam to the shore. Jesus asked him, "Do you love me?" Peter said, "You know I do, Lord." Jesus said, "If you love me, then take care of my people." Boys and girls, why do you think that Jesus' disciples were able to catch so many fish? Yes, they had kept their environment clean, and so they were able to get food from it and be healthy. Boys and girls, let's take care of our environment by not littering, by reusing things, by reducing things, and by recycling things. Have a great day, boys and girls.
Okay, colleagues, I know. It's simple, but I hope you saw the connections that were made. What do you think about it? Were you able to see the science? Were you able to see the religious studies connections? Were you able to see the social studies connections and the health and family life? All of that was done in a 5-minute devotion. Devotions are only supposed to be short activity that we have with our students. We are not having church, but that particular devotion was curriculum based. It was based on the theme of values and the topic for the week of sharing values. And we're going to watch a short portion of the lesson created for this particular topic. We'll jump there.
Welcome to another episode of Adventures with Morty. Well, I just came from the grocery store and I had my reusable grocery bags. Well, today we're talking about how we can take care of our home and how we can reduce, reuse, and recycle. Come on, let's go under the mango tree. Are our vocabulary words for today. All aboard the value train. Reuse, to use something over and over again. Reduce, to use less of something. Recycle, to take something that was used for something else and to make something new. Home, the place where we live. Value, how important something is to you. Last week, we learned about how we can value landforms like hills, mountains, and valleys. This week, we will learn how we can value our home. We will also learn what it means to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Come on, let's go. Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to class today. And hello, and welcome to our class today. We're learning about how we can care for our home. There are lots of ways that we can care for our home. Well, one way we can care for our home is by keeping it clean. Yes, we can sweep the floors and mop, washing the dishes. All of those are awesome ways to care for our home. Well, there are different rooms in the house, and there are different ways we can care for each room. What about the bedroom? Do you know of any ways we can care for our bedroom? I hear someone talking. That's Spider-Man. Let's hear what he has to say. That's an awesome idea. Do you want to know what he said? Well, Spider-Man said that one way we can care for our bedroom is by making our beds. That's an awesome way to keep our room clean. Well, another way we can care for our home is when we reduce, reuse, and recycle. But what does it mean to reduce, reuse, and recycle? Well, let's talk about each one. To reduce means to use less of something. That means we're not going to use too much of it. So, for example, when we're in the shower, we don't use so much water. Also, we want to use a little bit of light when we don't need it. So that means if we're not in the room, turn off the light. But not right now. We need the light. Another thing we can do is to reuse. To reuse means to use something over and over and over again. That means instead of throwing it away, you can just reuse it. Or you can give it to someone else that may be able to use it. We can do this with clothes, shoes, even toys that we don't play with anymore. The last thing we can do in our homes is recycle. Now this is the cool one, because to recycle means that we take something that was used for one purpose and we make it into something else. So we can take soda cans, glass bottles, or even newspapers. All of those things can be recycled. Well, do you want to come into my home and see how I take care of my home? Well, come on, let's go to At Home with Morty.
Okay, colleagues, I hope that by seeing these two lessons the devotion and the lesson, you can see how over the period of a week or a day, a few days, our students are going to get this information and it's going to be repeated and we're going to build on one thing after the next and they're going to continue hearing it. So at the end of the week, they would have gotten, or at the end of this topic, you would have covered all 4 of the subject areas. And with subjects that you see connected in Morty's lesson. And no, not everyone is going to be a Morty, but I want you to see that she actually gave them content. She actually taught, despite all the dress up and the class with the toys, but she actually gave them content and taught that content in an interactive and engaging way. And as you go on to plan your lessons, the first thing, let's look at the theme. What is the theme that you're teaching? Okay, where are we in this theme? Which topic are we on? Are we on the first topic, second topic, third topic? Okay. Then we look at our topic. Are you at the beginning of the topic? Are you going to use the first objective? Are you going to use 2 objectives? Or are you going to use 3 objectives in your lesson? And then let's look at the content that goes along with this objective. What are we going to teach? We know what we want them to know and what we want them to do. Now, what are we going to teach them? How are they going to do it? Which activities are we going to do? Or are they going to do? Are we going to do these activities together? Or is this going to be a performance-based assessment where the students are going to do it independently? Again, questions, put them in the box. Chat, let's talk. So far, I hope you would have gotten a bit more clarity. I hope you would have been able to have those questions that were looming for so long. I hope they would have been answered. In terms of assessment, no, you're not taking 4 sets of grades. No, I don't know what the expectation is now with the 10 grades. I don't know that part, but I know interdisciplinary unit is 1 set of grades. You're not going to break it down into 4 subject areas. And if you have more questions in terms of assessment and tests and all of that, you can always email us and you can post your questions and we'll answer them to the best of our ability. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your time. Thank you for your participation. I hope we would have answered your questions up to this point. I'll turn it back over to the moderator. Enjoy your day, be safe, and continue learning, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Martin, for that insightful presentation. I am certain that we all enjoyed it and we took notes, and we are more better equipped to teach the social sciences. At this time, I'm going to ask a few questions that are in the question and answer box. Teachers, if you still have questions, you can post them. I'm also going to post the link for you in a short while. The first question is coming from Ms. Lee Moore. It says, how do you know Ms. Conliffe is going to answer these questions for us? The question says, how do you know which content areas are to be connected with the IDU? I believe Ms. Martin would have covered that, but Ms. Conliffe, if you're there, you can speak to that for us, please.
Can you repeat the question for me, please?
Yes, ma'am. How do you know which content area are to be connected within the IDU?
The objectives, like Ms. Martin explained, the objectives are connected to the content. And if you check the column that says, hold on, let me make sure I have the document right in front of me so that I can explain it. The objectives are connected based on the content. And when you look at the column that says suggested content in the document, if I'm looking at the objective for the first unit that says, identify that God made me and is the creator of all things, I know that that is religious studies. So I can go to the column that says suggested content and find the religious studies, and then it would tell me exactly which page of the religious studies curriculum guide to find the content for that.
Thank you. I hope that answers your question. Our next question. So we are expected to do a devotion before the actual lesson. That's the question.
No, no, no. What Ms. Martin suggested was that you have structured devotions throughout the week. You can incorporate, if you don't want to incorporate the theme, then with the religious studies where they're talking about morals and character traits, you may want to concentrate on one of those for the week. That particular teacher decided to incorporate the theme of values as her, to base her devotion for that week around that theme, because she was teaching values in the social sciences for that week. No, you're not expected to do that. We only do devotions once per day, and that's early in the morning.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have another participant want to know if the videos that were presented, are they for the students to watch, and is it for grade 1?
Yes, they were. They were part of the virtual learning platform that the ministry established from March to June, and those 2 teachers voluntarily created those videos for us for the virtual learning platform. And I must say thank you again to them.
Okay, our final question, it says, however, the subject coordinator, Ms. Martin, prefers performance-based assessment using various social sciences topics teachers are assessing the disciplines through performance-based assessment. Why is a final examination still needed? And I think that was answered earlier, but you can go
Yes,
ahead.
because you're still teaching the content. And remember, the content comes from you using the social sciences document, and you're teaching the content from those documents. So an assessment or assessment should be done.
Thank you so much, Ms. Conliffe. And that's all the questions I have posted. I want to say thank you to all of our attendees. You've been a great audience, and I trust as a result of this experience here today that you are further knowledgeable about the social sciences and you're geared up to teach the social science. I'm looking forward to seeing some great lessons. I want to say thank you again to Ms. Conliffe and Ms. Martin for their insightful information that they have given to us, and to Ms. Taylor, our tech person, for assisting us. Thank you so much, and do have a great day. Remember to fill out the evaluation form. It's already posted. Fill out your evaluation form. We want to get your feedback on how we can better our presentation. So thank you so much, and enjoy your lunch. And I'm looking forward to seeing you back at 1:15, where you will connect to your next presentation. Remember to sign out of this presentation so you can connect to the next presentation. Have a good afternoon.